From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.
One more corner pocket.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi.
And Corey Clark.
Wake up! What is up? It is Wake Up Warchant. It is presented by the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, Tallahassee, Florida. CPTallybar.com. Or, as always, pull out the phone, camera app it, hit the QR code, go right to the website, find all the pertinent information. Corey, endorse the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill because you mean it, gosh darn it.
I do. I'm there all the time. I was there Saturday night. Didn't go Friday night, but I was there Saturday night celebrating the big Florida State baseball win over TCU. It was good times, man. Our friend Tom had his golf outing with his buddies. Tom Lang was there. His lovely wife Jamie was there. It's all a good time there at the Corner Pocket. Had chicken wings because they might be the best in the city. I get them mild. I'm not crazy like you folks. They do have the hottest you could want, but I like them mild, so that's how Daddy rolls. But yeah, just a good night. Get to watch sports, big Vegas wall, all the sports you can watch. And I know this Saturday, Aslan, I don't know if you're into MMA and UFC, but he's getting the UFC fight. This Bill is this Saturday. So if you're looking for a place to go watch, Saturday night.
Yeah, I used to watch them with my buddies in my 20s at a commercial chain bar. It brings out a certain element. It turns up the hostility. There's a tension in the air that you can cut with a knife when there's a televised.
Well, not
MMA
at Corner
event.
Pocket because people are just there to have fun.
Yeah.
It's not an MMA bar. You know what I mean? It's just it happens to be on. If you want to watch it, watch it. But yeah, and just so you know, folks, if you're trying to get in any trouble at the Corner Pocket, there's a lot of cops that go there too. So watch yourself.
Indeed,
watch yourself.
We love it. It's Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, CPTallybar.com. Check out the website.
I also want to give a shout out real quick to my man Don. He was there Saturday night. He was nice enough to buy me and Stephanie, the queen of the Corner Pocket, a drink on Saturday night. And that was really nice. He was very nice, very complimentary of you and the show.
Okay. All right. Shout out to everybody who graduated this weekend, by the way. Welcome to the tribe, Florida State alums. Everybody that graduated all across this fair land of ours. I think it was a heavy graduation weekend across the country. So
Stephanie graduated.
Yeah, you sent that like very nonchalantly in a text message. Shout out to the first lady of the Wake Up Warchant podcast.
She walked on Sunday. She didn't think I was going to be there. I don't know why, but she didn't. She felt weird because of her age. She didn't want to be like the and she is not old. She's not elderly, but she didn't want to feel like the old woman walking across the stage. I'm like, no, this should be something you should celebrate and be proud of. So she didn't want me to come, but I went anyway and watched her. She got her second Masters. The first one was from A&M, and this one was from Florida State. So really proud of her. And she got like whatever it is, Aslan. I'm not sure what it is. I wasn't fishing from those waters, but she got like the highest honor you could get for her degree, her master's.
All right, had the cool little sash, like the additional sash and all that kind of stuff. All right, shout out to her.
Yeah.
I think we still have that promo if you're a student, if you're listening to this, where I think if you email support@warchant.com from your college email account, we can get you set up for a year for $12.
There you go.
So use that and then profit into your post-grad career and then come back full freight. Let's get to it then, Core. We got some softball, baseball to talk about. Good weekend. Very good week on the diamond for both the ladies and the gentlemen. Things didn't finish out Sunday on the diamond, but again, we'll talk about that. But the NFL draft, the story du jour of the weekend with Florida State going into the weekend with one guy drafted first round, Jermaine Johnson, and that's the way it ended for Florida State. Only one guy drafted from this program this season. I think it's the second time it's happened in the last 3 years, if I'm not mistaken.
Nope.
So is this, I think Ira wrote or had a tweet, or maybe it was the lead of his story about whether this is revealing or, this just kind of shows you why Florida State is here. Or this is, is it the chicken, is it the egg sort of thing? Do you take anything away from the draft in terms of where this program is, where it can go, and how you view and evaluate this staff?
Yeah, I wrote a column. It was mainly on the wrapping up the weekend on the diamond, but I did at the end add 2 cents on the draft. And I think it's what I've been talking about for a while now, really, is that I think they have enough decent to good college football players on this roster to be a decent team, right? They have some solid college football players on this roster, more than they've had in a good long while. But you're still you can't win what you need to win, what you want to win, until you get some elite players. Like not just one Jermaine Johnson, but maybe three at different positions. And they're still not there yet. Now, there might be some guys on this roster that in 2 years will be there. I don't know that you can look at this roster right now and think of draft-eligible players and say, oh, yeah, next year they're going to have 6 guys drafted or 8 guys drafted. You'll get a handful, I think, in later rounds. I don't know that they have any first-round picks. I feel like I'm actually confident they don't have a first-round pick that will be draft-eligible next year. But 2 years from now, they might have 3 or 4 of them. And the portal, opens it up more and more every year and every day. But I think that's the next step, right? The step they have to take now is you've made your roster a decent one. You've filled it up with competent, solid college football players. Good in some instances. But, I don't know that Tatum Bethune is an NFL linebacker. Do you know what I mean? Like a first-round pick NFL linebacker. Heck, Nakobe Dean wasn't either. And he's one of the best college linebackers I've ever seen, so who knows how they judge linebackers. But Jamie Robinson isn't a first-round pick at safety. I think he can play in the league for a good long while. But I don't know where his draft status is. I don't think he's a first or a second-day pick probably. And as good as Jamie Robinson is, the point here is your good has to become great. You know what I'm saying? Like the best players on the team, they need to be first or second round picks if you're going to compete with the likes of, I'm not going to even repeat their names anymore. You guys know.
That feels too far in the distance though. I
don't think so. I think Duke Cooper might have a chance. I think A.Z. Thomas might have a chance. I think Jared Verse might have a chance. They're just not draft eligible this coming up this year. For all we know, Micah Pittman might win the Heisman, man. We don't know. Trey Benson might be the number 1 overall pick. There's some stuff we haven't seen. I just think that right now, when you look at this roster, nobody can argue that it hasn't gotten better because it has gotten better. But I think the NFL draft just illuminates how far it still has to go to be a championship roster. It's a 7 or 8 win roster. I think it's a 7 or 8 win program right now. You've just got to flood it with more elite players. And, everybody's trying to do that. But that's the next step. After they take this one, we hope, and get to a bowl and maybe win 8 games and feel good about life. After that step, the next step is to now don't just flood the roster with competent college football players, which is better than you've had recently, but get yourself some special ones, some elite ones, and then let's see where they go.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to compete with Georgia and Alabama right now. I'm just looking at the landscape and wanting to be better. Clemson got 2 guys drafted. They still win 10 games. BYU has 1 guy drafted. Utah gets 1 guy drafted. Oregon gets 1 guy drafted, and they're in much better sort of shape than where Florida. Maybe not better shape, but they had a better season than Florida State. So it kind of makes me wonder, like when you look at this, I think the glass half full silver lining is, well, like what do you expect from the staff? What do you want them to do with that kind of talent? To which, I say, well, look at these other teams I just mentioned that had a little bit more success with similar stats, if you will, in the draft. So is Florida State underachieving, overachieving with what they had this past season, or kind of right about where you would be expected when you get one dude in the league and then a bunch of guys get free agent contracts?
No, I mean, I think when you look at what that team was, 6-6-ish, you had 1 draftable guy, apparently. 1 draftable guy on the roster that was eligible, and your starting quarterback missed 5 games. Didn't miss. He didn't play 5 of the games. A couple of them were maybe the coach's decisions, and the rest were injury concerns. So I think it played to its roster talent last year. Honestly, after the horrific start, I think after the horrific start, it probably played a little bit above what it was. But again, let's see what Jamie Robinson ends up being, and let's see. Maybe Derek McClendon is an NFL player, man. Who knows? There's guys that do get better, significantly better from year to year, and from their first year on campus to their 4th year on campus. So hopefully that's going to happen with some of these guys. I think when you 6-5, I know they were 5-7, so I'll call them 5-7. I think they played basically to their talent level. I definitely don't think they underachieved. I also don't think they overachieved. Lord knows you can't overachieve if you go 5-7. I think the roster is better. I think it still illuminates what kind of mess he took over. But to your point, there are a lot of teams that don't have a bunch of – there's a lot of non-Georgia teams that have 15 guys drafted, that don't have 15 guys drafted, that still find a way to win. That's where Norvell has to be now. Because I don't see – like I said, I don't see like 8 draft picks off next year's team either. But that's not an excuse to not go win. You've got good enough players to go beat these teams you're competing against, save for a couple. And you don't play Georgia and Alabama and Ohio State next year. So, go win these games. You've got good enough players to go win these games. They're just not elite. You don't have good enough players to go compete for championships. But that's the next step after this step.
Yeah. Need to get some clarification on Jared Verse. If you look at his bio at Albany, it looks like he enrolled in 2019, nothing in 2020, obviously because FCS did not play college football. I don't think the CAA even had a spring season. And then he played, obviously, in 21 this past year with Albany. And then going into this season, you figure he's 3 years removed from high school. But then Pro Football Focus, which hasn't been treating me well on the live shows, Pro Football Focus says he's draft eligible in 2025.
I don't think that's not true.
Out.
Yeah, that's not true. But I also unless he just becomes, comes out of nowhere. I shouldn't say out of nowhere.
I mean, Jermaine Johnson kind of came out of nowhere.
You're right. You're right. He did. But Jermaine Johnson had played at that level for a couple years. Yeah. I would be
a little seasoning.
As talented as I think Verse is. Man, it's really tough your first year in Power 5 to dominate. And if he's not dominating out there, he doesn't need to come out because I think in 2 years he might be dominant. And plus, I guess we can talk about this later. I don't know, but what the NIL does is these fringe guys that may or may not get drafted, maybe you come back and you guarantee yourself some more money. Jashawn Corbin, he's not the best example because he's not a huge star. But he's a big enough star in Tallahassee that he probably had more guaranteed money for him waiting in Tallahassee than he does now as an undrafted free agent with – who did he sign with?
Giants.
Yeah, with the Giants, right? So that's the thing. So looking at Sam Howell, who could be the poster boy for this moving forward, and it's really going to help college basketball in my opinion. What this is doing. And we've talked about it with Baycott and the guys at North Carolina and the dude at Kentucky that I apologize. I just can't pronounce his name. So
Oshibwe.
There you go. Just an incredible rebounder, but apparently they don't have a role for him in the NBA. Those guys are the poster boys for basketball. Sam, and coming back and getting money. Sam Howell might be the one for football players because there's so many guys that leave early thinking they're going to be a first or a second round pick, and they end up maybe not getting drafted at all, or maybe going the 6th or 7th round. You guys know we could name dozens of Florida State players that probably went too early, or at least didn't get drafted when they thought they were going to get drafted. So Sam Howell probably didn't declare for the NFL draft thinking he'd be a 5th round pick. That just makes no sense. And what kind of money would Sam Howell make if he came back to North Carolina for another year with the NIL deals that can be put in place? But he is a household name in that state. He is a big deal in that state. And also, he might be a big deal in the open market. He's guaranteed getting drafted in the 5th round by, Washington maybe.
Yeah, you texted us this.
Yeah, by Washington. Yeah. So getting drafted in the 5th round, he's guaranteed to make around, the signing bonus is about $350,000. Man, he'd have made triple that, in my opinion, if he'd have stayed at North Carolina or if he'd have gone somewhere else. I think that would be the market for a NFL-ish caliber quarterback who's proven to be a very, very good college quarterback. So now he's going to have a fight on his hands just to make the team. And this might be his only window where he can make money playing football. And I think if he knew NIL was going to blow up like this, and, hey, man, you might be drafted in the 5th round, I think he comes back to North Carolina for another year because he's going to make more money than he will even if he makes the Washington football team for that 1 year.
680, I think is what you said in the text. If he makes the team, he'll get 680 total.
Yeah, for the season. Yes. And that's the only year that would be guaranteed when you're a 5th round pick. So, man, I think moving forward, probably more with quarterbacks, but I think overall just with players in general, there are a lot of really good college football players that just don't project at the next level for whatever reason. I think it could actually be good for college football. These guys, if there's that kind of NIL money, the Sam Howells of the world, stick around for another year, and that's good for everyone.
Yeah, I think it's going to be reserved for select positions. I don't know about a running. I think in Jay Sean's case, I think it'd probably be hard for, insert collective to round up six figures to keep a fairly good running back, but nothing that's going to really change maybe your fortunes and your outlook. But yeah, your Sam Howells, I think the Charleston Rambo kid from Miami, that was a heck of a receiver, didn't get drafted either. Justin Ross from Clemson. I mean, he's kind of a poster boy in NIL for a whole different reason. I like what you're saying, that NIL can now maybe be used as a bridge to keep guys around, or at least incentive to keep guys in college longer, which I think makes most fans happy. We like to have guys that we can root for maybe more than just 3 seasons. But then you look at a guy like Justin Ross, who was all everything coming out of high school and definitely produced at a really high level early on in his career, and then sustains a pretty catastrophic injury, hasn't kind of regained what he was, and now doesn't have a job, more or less. And that's a bummer, man. Like, you would have liked for a kid like that to be able to capitalize on it. Now, since NIL wasn't around, doesn't mean he got no money. No, I'm sure Clemson figured out a way to induce him to South Carolina over his hometown Crimson Tide, home state Crimson Tide. So, maybe some of this NIL stuff, maybe since it is going to be above the table, it will be a little bit more fruitful for these guys. But yeah, I don't really know who I could imagine here, like in recent time. I don't know. I think I would have probably thrown money in the hat to keep Marvin and Tamori and Terry around, as crazy as that sounds now in hindsight. But if you would have told me, like, coming out of the 19 season in El Paso, because, it seemed like maybe Marvin, both him and Terry could have left, I would have been like, all right, man, I'll throw a few grand on keeping those guys around, because I felt like they could be difference makers. But I guess it just comes up to whoever's got the money and what they think is, quote unquote, a difference maker.
Yeah, and I think somebody like Travis Rudolph, who declared, and I don't think he was drafted at all after declaring early. Again, he was a pretty big name. He was the leading receiver on that team. He had that really great moment where he ate the pizza in the cafeteria. So he was a household name on top of being a pretty good college football player. He was a household name. Like, he was featured on Good Morning America. That's money, real money that he could have made. And yeah, it's just, I think it's going to give people pause, and it should. Like, I was putting myself in the position of a parent who, okay, like when you've seen Brady, he's probably going to be 6'3", 230, middle linebacker.
Right.
Let's say he's projected as a 4th-round pick, and he's a junior, and that's a physical position, and you want to go make money when you can. Well, number one, the beauty about playing college football, one of them is you do get your housing paid for. Like, look, man, Jashawn Corbin, even if he makes the Giants don't pay his rent on top of the salary. Like, he has to take that chunk of the salary, and that's his rent, and that's his food. And like in college, the beauty is you don't have to pay for food, and you don't have to pay for rent. And so when you think about that, the money you save on lodging and food, and the money you could potentially make NIL-wise, I think there will be some real decisions moving forward. Obviously not with 1st or 2nd round picks, because those guys are guaranteed millions of dollars. But I think moving forward past that, there really will be some decisions to make when it's like, okay, I can maybe make, I don't know, man. Again, we have no real idea of what the market is. I'm going to say for a starting wide receiver who had 50 catches and 800 yards, he could make $250,000 at an NIL at certain schools. Or the Jordan Addison kid from Pitt, right? So he's going to make a lot of money, I guess, at USC or wherever he ends up going. There's no guarantee that he makes in the NFL, and he gets to eat and live for free. And I think when you put all that together, it's like, okay, yeah, I can chase my NFL dream next year when I'm out of eligibility, and I'll just chase it. But I got 1 year to make some real money here, some legitimate money. It's not forever life-changing money, but it's legitimate money, and I get to eat and live for free. 1 more year to get better, and then maybe I'll up my draft stock till I'm a 3rd or 2nd round pick, and I get a guaranteed contract. I think that's something that the agents probably won't do that. The good ones will, but the bad ones and the bad actors will still continue to get bad advice, give bad advice, and mistakes will be made every year. But I hope these parents and these players understand that there is now another avenue besides, hey, I've had a pretty good junior year, I'm going to PK Sam it and see what happens, and I'm going to be out of football in a year and a half.
Has anything surprised you in terms of who went, who didn't? I mean, who went was Jermaine, and who didn't go was everybody else. As we sit here and record this, Devontae Love-Taylor picked up by the Bucks, Kier Thomas to the Rams, Andrew Parchment to the Panthers, Corbin to the Giants. I think Emmett Rice also with the Giants, trying to confirm that. I think I saw a tweet, and I think it might have came down. And then Jordan Wilson signed with the Bengals. Yeah, I mean, the tweet just says Tallahassee to New York, so I don't know if it's the Jets or the Giants. For Emmett Rice.
There. Yeah.
But you had me believing. I believed in. I mean, you were big on Kier Thomas before he showed up, and he proved very prophetic with those sort of words. I didn't think Corbin was going to go. I thought, if anything, I could see Kier going like 5th or 6th round. So that's, I guess, like my biggest surprise. Other than maybe Parchment getting picked up. Good for him though. Like I didn't think he did anything close to worthy of being put on tape, and I just figured receivers are dime a dozen. It'd be, lots of guys maybe to look after. I mean, shoot, I don't know if Rambo even got picked up yet. I would assume he has. But anything surprise you in terms of guys not getting drafted?
Yeah, I thought both Kier and Corbin had a chance. I guess my biggest surprise is that neither one of them was. Like, I'm not stunned that Kier Thomas wasn't drafted or Jashawn Corbin wasn't drafted. I just thought one of them would have been. So that's surprising to me. I just think Kier, man, I mean, yes, he's not a superstar. And yes, he's not like the twitchiest, fastest defensive end in the world. But the dude's a football player. And I would not be, again, not to use this word, but I will. I would not be stunned if he actually does make a roster. He is not going to be a star in the NFL, probably. He doesn't maybe have the measurables and the speed that you want out of a defensive end, like the electric athleticism that you'd want, or the huge size. He doesn't have either. But he's a football player that makes plays, man, and he's tough. And I've seen a lot of. It's crazy, man. Like I was actually reading this. I don't know why I thought to look it up. But I was on this Kansas City Chiefs blog, and they were talking about, can you guess who their biggest wild card is on defense going into the 2022 season? You probably don't even know this person's on their team. Josh Kando.
Yeah, really? Our guy.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Because he didn't play much. Played, maybe 4 or 5 games. Was a healthy non-player for most of them. Like healthy, he could have played, but they had him they had him not available. And the guy was like, he flashes some potential where you're like, okay, with that size and that athleticism, there could be something there. But he didn't. All he had was 1 QB pressure for the whole season. And it's like, welcome to the world of Josh Kando, man. But and I'm not trying to kill the kid, but they'll take a chance on that guy who really did, other than an interception, just about jack squat nothing for his senior year, production-wise. Yeah. He wasn't horrible. He didn't get blown off the ball and pushed into the sideline every play, but he had 0 sacks, man. In 9 games, he had 0 sacks. Kier Thomas had a lot more than 0, but he doesn't look the part like Kando looks the part. So the Chiefs will continue to hope and pray that a guy like Kando somehow puts it together, even though, as this writer on this blog pointed out, it was the same story at Florida State. He left you see the athleticism. He was a 5-star recruit. He never did anything. He had an ankle injury, and he just never produced. But maybe he'll figure it out in the NFL and become a great or a good defensive end. Or, they'd rather take a shot on that guy. That, if it didn't happen in the ACC, it's hard to imagine it's going to happen in the AFC West for that guy. But Kier Thomas, who actually did produce at college, in 2 different colleges, and had, 40 or 50 tackles for loss in his career, they don't take a chance on him because of his size. And it's like, man, some guys are just football players. Look at basketball. I know, completely different sport, completely irrelevant. Alvarado at Georgia Tech, right?
Look at that guy. How about him, right? He's a pro,
He was
man.
an absolute pest at Georgia Tech. He led the ACC in steals. He was the ACC Defensive Player of the Year. He essentially beat Florida State twice, Scotty Barnes' year, because they just could not move the ball against him. He was just such a pest and so hard for them to go up against that they would kind of melt down. They lost the ACC championship game to him. They also lost to Atlanta earlier in the year. But he didn't have the measurables, all the other stuff you wanted out of your guard to even get drafted. But lo and behold, the guy that made a whole bunch of plays in the ACC and was impossible to go up against offensively turns out to be a similar guy in the NBA. Like, he's making plays in the NBA. So I don't think Kier Thomas is probably going to be the equivalent of Alvarado. I don't think he's going to be taking over playoff games next year. But you see my point? Like, Keir Thomas did stuff at the college level, and I would have thought that would have gotten him more of a look because he is an absolute football player that makes plays. Kane Doe looks awesome getting off a bus, looks awesome in the football pads, has never really put it together on a football field except against Delaware State one game.
All right, well, there's...
So I hope Keir gets a chance, like a legitimate chance. Some of these guys, it's like you're non-drafted. We'll have you here for a couple of weeks just as a body, and then good luck. Hope it works out for you. I hope he gets a legitimate chance to impress, and I hope he's impressive because I like the kid. I like dealing with him, and I hope he gets to play in the league for a good long while.
Well, hey, the Rams lost. They lost Von Miller, so there's a spot open for him.
There you go, Keir. Come on, man. Yeah, he's Von Miller vibes, right?
The clutch shot, the biggest hits. It's time for the Zaxby's Indescribably Good
Player of the Week.
You heard the man. It is time for the Zaxby's Indescribably Good Player of the Week. Corey and I usually sometimes kick this around before we go to air with it, but I'm going to kind of turtle up in case Corey wants to throw bows at me for this. Parker Messick might be the most underappreciated player. I mean, just amazing, terrific talent that we just don't celebrate enough. But hopefully they'll win it all, and then we can celebrate him vastly. Huge performance out of him. But my pick is going to be Wyatt Crowell, Corey, because of what he had to sort of deal with entering the contest on Saturday against number 20 TCU. Carson Montgomery, a little bit shaky. Wyatt Crowell comes in for 4 2/3 and just absolutely shoves. Only allowed 1 hit, 1 walk, 6 Ks, again, in 4 2/3 inning of work. No runs, no earned runs, obviously. In helping Florida State clinch the series, which they weren't able to sweep on Sunday. So Crowell may be sort of turning some sort of corner to where we know what we're going to get every time they pull him out of the bullpen. So Wyatt Crowell, that effort in that big-time win, my Zaxby's Indescribably Good Player of the Week, Corey.
I'm going to stay on a diamond, but not that diamond. I'm going to go across the way a little bit to softball. And look, man, it's every week with them. You got a million you could pick. Pitchers were great. Defense was great. They make SportsCenter top 10 all the time on defensively. But I'm going to go with Chloe Culp. Chloe Culp. That's tough to say. Redshirt sophomore from Tallahassee, NFC.
Go.
So this is why Florida State softball is Florida State softball and Lonnie is Lonnie. They're in a 1-1 game in the bottom of the 6th inning with the number 7 team in the country. She pinch hits Chloe Culp, who is hitting 125 on the year and has 1 extra base hit. It was a double in 40 at-bats on the season. And all Chloe Culp does, because she plays for Florida State, is hits a go-ahead bomb to straightaway center, her first home run of the year, her first home run in 2 years, to help Florida State give them a 2-1 lead, and they end up closing it out 2-1 to win the series, 2-0 over Oklahoma State. So, yeah, Chloe Culp, out of nowhere. But they have a lot of these. They just step up. They do it in the postseason last year. They just find ways to step up and make things happen, and Chloe Culp hits not only her first home run of the year, just happened to be a game-winning home run over the number 7 team in the country.
Patty Gazzo can't even sleep at night because she knows Lonnie and the gals are coming for him in Oklahoma City.
Right.
Book the tickets, everybody. Chloe Culp and Wyatt Crowell are Zaxby's Indescribably Good Players of the Week. Corey, do we know Lonnie's stance when it comes to metrics, analytics? Like, did everything point to putting Chloe in that position, do you think? Or I just want the myth and the ethos of Lonnie just to be all gut, just all instinct, and she just always hits the right buttons. Do we know if they do the whole analytics, metrics?
Well, they do a little bit. I mean, they do care, but the difference is I talked to her about this when I did that story where I followed them around for the day, is that there isn't a lot of data in softball like there is in baseball. And her point was, well, look, when it comes to like the track systems, the hit tracks and stuff for baseball, right, launch angle, exit velocity, all that stuff, all the stuff you want to know, spin rate, all the stuff you want to know, that it's invested heavily in baseball, and there's a lot of scientists that look at it and have figured it out. Well, because baseball players make millions upon millions of dollars for their teams when they make the pros. There's not really a pro softball league, so there's not a ton of money in hit tracks. Yeah. So that's why it's hard to know. She's like, I know what the launch angle is. I know what the exit velo is. I know what spin rates, we know what spin rates are, but we still don't have enough data to understand what's an elite spin rate, what's not an elite spin rate. So that's the kind of stuff that she's still not, they're still working on. But she does want to do it, and I'm sure she believes in it in a way. She just doesn't. I'm sure she also doesn't get, directed by it. Like she does go with guts. There's no other way. What would she have seen to say, you know what, Chloe in this spot, she's due.
Yeah.
But she went with her gut. She did tell me one time when I was watching her take BP, because, man, when you watch any of them take BP, they just hit the tar out of the ball. All of them are hitting the scoreboard. Even the ones you wouldn't think could are crushing the scoreboard. And she was talking about Chloe in the batting cage. She's like, I wish she knew how good she was. I wish she thought she was as good as I think she is. Talking about Chloe, and then maybe now she does. And she's about to go on a run.
I feel like if I was Stu Gotts and this was the Lebitard show, I'd be like, Lonnie, Patty, Oklahoma City, collision course. Florida State 45-5 now after the sweep of number 7 Oklahoma State. 13 wins over ranked opponents. Incredible, man. There's something.
And I would
else,
think
man.
like 10 of them are like top 10 opponents.
Yeah,
it's nuts.
So shout out to them for, again, another impressive weekend. They take on Florida in Tallahassee Wednesday, 7 o'clock. That'll be on ESPNU. But head out to the deck. Head out to the Plex. Catch the game. Catch the fever.
I think it might be sold out. I think I heard that those tickets are sold out. But you know what? There's a burn right there, right over the left field fence. There's a burn you can sit at, and there is a parking deck.
Berm. I thought it was like berm.
Berm. Yeah, it's a burn. Did I say burn?
Yeah,
you know what I meant. Come on,
burn.
knoll. I should have said knoll.
Okay.
There's a grassy knoll
Nice.
that you can stand on beyond the outfield fence, and then also you can go on the parking deck. But go, man, that's going to be a pretty ridiculous atmosphere because people really do like this team a lot.
Oh, yeah.
They're fun. That game, their game on Friday was an hour and a half.
It's a beautiful
It's a 2
thing.
to 1 hour and a half game, and that was it.
Just boom on schedule. Love it. Going back to metrics and data and analytics, as you were saying, there's just not a lot of it maybe for softball. There's plenty of it for baseball. Mike Martin Jr. talked about it after Saturday's series clinching win over TCU, where Logan Lacey kind of poor Logan, man. Logan had 3 fantastic ABs against TCU on Saturday. The third baseman just kept robbing him over and over. But then when it mattered most, he uncorked a 3-run homer that proved to be the game-winning runs for Florida State. And, asking Mike Martin Jr. about his whole sort of philosophy right now, where he's like, man, we're just going to play the hot hand. And I kind of asked him, like, hey, don't baseball players like waking up and knowing they're going to play and then and walking into the park knowing where they're going to play, where they're going to be in the lineup? And he just kind of went a little bit of a tangent, just like, well, it's because of COVID. It's the amount of number of guys that we have on our roster. And with a guy like Logan Lacey being older, we have so much more data on him. We have so much more analysis on him that we're going to stick it out with him. Like, it just kept telling us that we should keep him in the lineup because the matchups that we had were just that advantageous for us. So good to see him kind of break out of it. I think even on Sunday in that shortened game, which you were at, he kind of had a little bit of pop at the plate too. But yeah, I don't want to be too reactionary because I buried them last week, and I don't want to make them heroes too much this week. I know this exists in them. What they did to TCU this week, I know this is who Florida State can be. 10-0 win on Friday. Reese Albert, he had 4 or 5 ribbies. Parker Messick with 14 Ks again. No walks, I think. And then Ross Dunn comes out of nowhere and closes it out.
Yeah.
I know that Clemson stuff resides in them as well, but we'll focus on just how good they look this weekend. Anything catch you by surprise, or what stood out to you most or impressed you most about Florida State's ability to bounce back from that disappointing series loss against Clemson and take out TCU?
Well, Messick didn't, because Messick did at home what he always does at home. 14 Ks, 0 walks, 2 hits. I mean, the guy's just a phenom at home specifically, but he's good everywhere. But he's a phenomenal at home, which is why if you could get a regional here, it'd be big. But yeah, no, the offense in general was the difference. So they didn't end up for you guys that don't know, they played 4 innings or 3.5 innings on Sunday. And Florida State had a 6-5 lead. It was a 6-2 lead, I think. And then Bryce Hubbard just wasn't very good at all. But the game ended up, there was a curfew, a 4:15 curfew. As Meat said afterwards, is like, man, they don't have enough money in TCU. They can't get themselves a charter flight. But they had a commercial flight. So 4:15 was the curfew to get back. So no inning could start after 4:15. And they started the day knowing that. So the game started at noon. It was like an hour and 50 minutes for the first 3 innings, and then a rain delay. So anyway, they got to the bottom of the fourth with Florida State with a 6-5 lead, and then they couldn't get another inning played by the time, because of lightning in the area, by the time the curfew would be over. So they just called the game, which was a bummer. But because, I mean, imagine Alex Terrell. He had a 3-run homer in that game. That does not count now. Logan Lacey had it.
All the statistics that happened in that game that really occurred do not get recorded.
Correct. So Bryce Hubbart's loving life, and Connor Whitaker, who had his first rough outing in 2 months, like they shelled Connor Whitaker when he came in. Yeah. Those don't count. But Logan Lacey had 2 hits. Brock Mathis had 2 hits. Terrell had a 3-run homer. None of that counts, which is a bit of a bummer. But what I was going to say overall, if you take the 3 innings that they did get to hit on Sunday, in the 16 innings they hit the first 2 games because, obviously the home team, and they had a lead, so they didn't have to bat in the 9th inning. So they had 19 innings at the plate this weekend. 23 runs, 27 hits. 14 of those hits, Aslan, were extra base hits.
We like that.
They're last in the league in slugging percentage. They were going into this weekend last in the ACC in runs scored. So for their offense to do that and only strike out 16 times in 19 innings, which for them is well below their average, man, that was good to see. And maybe there's something going on. Like Jordan Carrion didn't play on Sunday. Not that the stats would have mattered anyway, because he had a stomach bug. Reese Albert apparently hit a ball off his foot in batting practice that sidelined him on Sunday as well. But Albert and Carrion, the way they're hitting. Yes. And if Logan Lacey, who did have a double, like hit a double off the fence on Sunday, right after he had hit his what seemed like his first home run in 5 years, a big home run on Saturday night to basically put that game out of reach. That you got to get him going, man. He's too good. So if Terrell can give you what a home run or 2 a weekend, Logan Lacey become the hitter that you think he has been. He's shown he can be. That's what this weekend was to me. I thought was FSU's offense operating on all cylinders. It is not a great offense, but it can do things like this. They do have some hitters. Ferrer, Tibbs hit a monster home run. Yep. Those guys are good hitters. Carrion has somehow become a good hitter.
He's been batting above 500, I think, since
nuts.
this little streak of
It's crazy. Yeah. And even his outs are rocket shots. It's just to right center. And so I don't know what's happened, but that weekend gives you hope that it's in there. And we've said that a few times this year. But now when you look at their last 10 games, they're 8-2, and both losses were at Clemson when they had a lead in the 8th inning. Now those losses did happen, but they beat 7 straight ranked teams. There's some stuff maybe coming together with this team, and I was very encouraged by the offense. The pit and Crowell. Yeah. Crowell, Messick, and the offense was what you took away from that series. But yeah, man, Terrell, if he can, they just had better at bats, man. They just like Brock Mathis when he was up on. By the way, you've got to figure out a way to play him more, because love Colton Vincent to death. Probably a great kid. He's hitting 188, man. Brock Mathis has the highest slugging percentage on your team. You finally gave him an at-bat on Sunday, gave him a start on Sunday. He went 2 for 2. He had a stinging double down the left field line, and then a bases-loaded single to right field where he kind of stayed back and just poked it through the right side, which was a great piece of hitting. Just like Reese Albert had a go-ahead single on Saturday night, which was a great piece of hitting. Yep. Not trying to do too much. Put the bat on the ball, stay back, and try to hit it to the opposite field if you can, and that's good to see because they have not been doing that. So the extra base hits and the lack of strikeouts were 2 things that I thought were very, very, very encouraging. And I think they only made 1 error on the day, and that was when James Tibbs somehow overran a fly ball by 5 feet running towards the foul line and then threw it wildly into the infield to give the kid an extra base. But other than that, they picked it up well. They picked it up pretty well. They made some really nice plays. And then, they hit the ball up and down the lineup. They hit the ball. Everybody in the lineup contributed.
Yeah, even Brett Roberts even had a home run too. So a little bit of a
big
power
one.
surge.
There's a 2. Yeah, they were down 3-0, and they showed some fight. Right, they got down 3-0 and came back, and tied it. Brett Roberts hit a 2-run homer, and then I don't remember how they scored their 3rd run.
I think did Reese tie it up, or was Reese
Reese had the go ahead hit, but man, the up and down the lineup, they've done a really nice job. Or they did. Sorry, they have not done a really nice job at all this year. They did a really nice job this weekend.
Tibbs, it was back-to-back homers. Remember? That was my fault.
Yeah, that's right.
Back-to-back jacks. Yeah, and just on the Connor Whitaker thing, I know you weren't being critical of him. Maybe he did have a rough go, but like they sprinted him out to the bullpen with Jonas Scalaro because Bryce Hubbard had gotten into trouble, and I think he walked the bases loaded. And then he was able to get a pop-up to get out of the jam, and then they trot him out there for the next inning. So I think they showed like Whitaker and Scolaro sprinting to the bullpen, and you see them stretching out as quickly as they can, trying to get warm as fast as they can. And then, he gets out of the jam. You guys come up to bat. They put him back out there. So maybe part of you kind of thinks, all right, I'm not going to have to go in after all, and maybe kind of pull it back a little bit. And then all of a sudden, after I think he allowed a single to start it off, they gave Hubbard the hook and said, all right, no, you're back out there. So that probably didn't help his psyche as a freshman. So I still got faith in him. Not that you don't have. I just wanted to maybe.
No, he's been great.
Yeah.
He's probably been their most consistent guy out of the pen all year. He's been great for them. He just he gave up 4 hits to 6 batters, and they were all rocket shots. Yeah. So he was not good on Sunday. But hey, you know what? Didn't count, Connor. Yeah. Just flush it. Didn't even happen. Don't even go watch the film. There's no film. It didn't happen. Burn it.
By the way, I don't know if I'm going to give me a Christmas card this year. This is twice now where on a Thursday we've spoke to him, and for all intents and purposes, that pretty much told us the guy's not going to play this weekend. I think it was Tyler earlier in the year, and then Tyler ends up like pinch hitting and doing something clutch for them earlier in the season. And then Ross Dunn, the whole plan with Ross Dunn and moving Carson Montgomery to the weekend rotation. And the reason that Carson went on Saturday and Hubbard went on Sunday, everybody, was that Hubbard was actually sick, so they pushed him up a day, or pushed him back a day, rather, so he could have some time to recoup. But when they made that move 2 weeks ago, Meat's like, listen, you guys aren't going to see him for a while. We need to get him right. They didn't want to kind of keep trotting him out there and have him fix it on his own. And then on Thursday, he was asked about Ross Dunn. He's like, yeah, he's getting there, but not yet. And then he comes in and throws like 20 pitches in 2 innings and just strikes out 5 dudes, I think. Maybe not 5, but he had a terrific sort of bullpen performance. I know they was already up 10-0, so not all that much pressure maybe on you.
Well, that's what I was going to say. That's when you're trying to get a kid confidence and get him. You can only work out so many things in a bullpen session. You've got to do it in front of people against real life competition. So I think Meat probably wasn't going to pitch Ross Dunn in any other situation but something like that, and he probably wasn't expecting that to happen. How many 10-0 leads have they had on a Friday night this year? But it did happen. So yeah, that was I don't think they were planning to do that. Obviously, I don't think he was going to be the first guy to the pen, regardless. No. It's just the situation dictated it, and yeah, it was good to see though.
Yeah.
So maybe he'll get a chance to pitch on Tuesday when they play at Stetson.
Yeah. All right, back on the Christmas list then. And yeah, he did throw 20 pitches, 5 Ks, and 2 innings.
Yeah, man, he was great. He was great.
My goodness. Is your Mike Norvell story dropping today?
No, I think we're gonna maybe drop that on Tuesday.
Okay.
But folks, you'll enjoy it. It was a good time. Aslan was there, put in a lot of work afterwards to hopefully give you guys some content and a product that you'll really like.
Do you want to tee it up at all, or are we gonna do a show?
Yeah. Why don't we do it? So yeah, I'll tee it up. I don't care. It's out there. It's gonna be out there soon enough. Mike Norvell and I sat down. As many of you know, I saved the season back in late September, early October when I asked that question that elicited the 5-minute rant from Norvell about wanting the right players to come to Florida State and what's he looking for and all that. And the season turned around after that. I'm not saying I had everything to do with it.
Just mostly.
Mostly it was me. But anyway, so then Norvell and I sat down in his office late last week and rewatched that answer, my question, and then his answer to me. We watched it together and then talked about it, broke it down, basically minute by minute about like, okay, are you mad at me here? Are you mad at me here? How mad are you at me here? Like basically the whole 5 minutes we broke it down and talked about the message he was trying to send, the message he did send, and why he answered it the way he answered it. So yeah, I thought it was fun. It was a good time.
Yeah, so we'll have that up on YouTube in living color, moving photos, video, and then we'll drop the entire. So it was like a 25-minute conversation with Corey and Coach. Mm-hmm. The video is probably about 15, 17 minutes, somewhere in there. But the entire thing, we'll drop it either on this feed or the headlines feed. I'll fight to put it on this feed so we can just, maybe have one less show to do. Or maybe just one extra show this week on this particular feed. But we'll give you it. We'll produce it, make it all nice and slick, and then we'll give you the whole thing raw, and you can kind of consume it as you will as well. I just said I think, so I need to probably go ahead with it. Or I can just edit this, and it'll never even happen. But we did the smash on Sunday. Michael Langston talked about the transfer portal targets possibly for Florida State because that May 1st deadline hit, Corey. How about this as we go out to Michael Langston? Who's gonna sign more guys out of the portal in the next 30 days? Mike Norvell or Leonard Hamilton?
Ooh. Norvell. I think he's going to have more spots.
Okay.
I think Leonard just got one. I think he might have one more waiting for him. But I'd say, yeah, it's a good question, but I'd say Norvell.
Okay. Michael Langston talking about the transfer portal.
All right, so give me the deal, man. I'm sorry, Aslan. I just totally interrupted you. Hey, listen, softball.
I'm good. I'm observing, man. Roll with it, my friend.
Softball to Michael. Let's go, baby. Talk to me. Let's go. What's the momentum like? Give us, all of us, our desperate selves. That's me, and that's everybody on the chat. That's all of us in Florida State land. Give me some news, baby.
Yes. I'll address Jeff's thing he brought up. He was wondering, like, is there a tight end in there? There's not a tight end yet. But I hear there's a possibility of one that they're eyeing. Is Darnell Washington from Georgia, tight end, massive kid. I visited FSU during the high school process. He isn't officially in yet, but I think he's a guy that could possibly jump in there. He's got a previous relationship with the staff, so he certainly knows what Norvell does with a tight end. So that's one I'm kind of eyeing to see. If he goes in there, I think there will be mutual interest there. So we'll just have to wait and see if he jumps in. But first of all, Darnell Washington's in there. And then I hear it's up to over 8 guys that they're involved with, that they're active with, that are at least talking to. So they're pretty active. Most of them I hear is mainly offensive line. I just put up a nugget this morning, really early this morning, kind of goes through all the guys. I won't give it away on just the Sunday smash of every guy, but people can go there and read it. So there's most of them are offensive linemen, but I think they do want to. I think they would like to get a linebacker, a wide receiver, and they certainly want a playmaker at tight end. I think the most important is they would like to get an offensive tackle to really solidify that position. That would really solidify if they can get a guy that they can come in, plug in, and certainly help with their depth. And then that way you can move Darius Washington where you want him and all that stuff and juggle a lot of stuff. So I definitely think they're still pretty active with this whole thing. What's tricky about this is, Aslan mentioned the May 1st thing, but I'm not sure that's going to go into play because Mark Emmert's not there anymore, and somebody's got to sign off on this stuff. So I'm not sure, and we still see guys entering, so I'm not sure if that thing won't be extended or not. So that's something I'm kind of monitoring as well. As Aslan threw up, Jonah Miller is a guy I mentioned this morning out of Oregon. He's a guy that I know FSU's been actively involved with. They're trying to get him on a visit from what I hear. So certainly they're very active with this portal. They're not slowing down just because of all the guys that they landed in the spring. I think they want to add a few more pieces to this summer group.
Michael, is Jonah Miller being pursued by Miami?
I don't know that yet. I would assume, as I told people on our site, I would assume they are, or at least intrigued by him. But I haven't heard any other team besides FSU, at least right now. That's the main team I've heard. But I have not heard if Miami's involved. I would assume they are, since Miraball's the guy that recruited him and got him signed. But I don't know for sure if they're pushing yet. I haven't heard that.
Michael, is quarterback on the radar at all?
I don't think so, because if they were going to sign a quarterback, in my mind, it would have been in the spring, because what are you doing bringing in a guy in the summer? I mean, what's that really going to do? What are you going to accomplish? If you're going to get a guy, you get him in the spring, you get him to battle with Jordan, you show what you are, and in the fall you can kind of make your move. But I don't think they're going to add a quarterback personally. I mean, you have Tate, you have Jordan, and you have AJ, who, from what Norvell is saying, he seems to be comfortable with those guys. And then you have walk-on English. I mean, it's like, so I don't know what you're really going to add if you add a quarterback in the summer. It seems it would be kind of dumb to me to bring in a guy in the summer. If you're going to bring in one, you need to get it done in the spring. So I don't expect one.
Michael, I heard that they had, I won't get into all the other stuff about, you've got people, on the ground all the time. You're better at this than I am, for sure, when it comes to incoming players. But I heard that they had their guy, anyhow, at linebacker that they had targeted some time ago. Are you hearing that they're locked in on a guy that we think that Florida State's going to get?
I think they are locked in on the guy. He hasn't hit the portal yet.
Right,
I'm not even allowed to mention his name from what I was
right,
told. Don't even mention his name.
right.
But he is a guy that they have a previous relationship with that previously has solid interest in FSU, and I think they would have a good shot if this guy did enter the portal. So yeah, they do have somebody in mind. They're just hoping to see that he gets in the portal, but certainly when he gets in, I will talk about him. But yes, there is is one guy that I've heard consistently was that guy that you're
Yeah, I don't want
referring
to put you in an uncomfortable position. I've heard that too, and I'm just crossing my fingers because I think they could use another guy. I'm more concerned about offensive line. Can you give me a percentage? And I'm trying. I don't mean to pin you down, but I'm just desperate and excited. Can you give me a percentage chance that Florida State brings in an offensive lineman here? Do they have a shot at somebody that you're hearing about that you feel good about? I know we just mentioned Jonah, but is there somebody else out there, anybody else? Because they've got to get another offensive lineman here, preferably a tackle. But at this point, I would just take another available guy that upgrades this offensive line's depth at the very least.
Yeah, I think if in a perfect world, what they would like to do was bring in a guy that's really young that you can develop and bring in.
Cheers.
Yeah, yeah, and then the other guy is kind of the Jonah Miller part is bringing a guy you can plug in. So I think that's the perfect situation. I'd love to give you good things they say, and hey, Jeff, there's definitely somebody coming. I think they're going to get an offensive lineman. I don't know who yet. There's nobody that I think's leaning their way, but the fact that there's such a high market of what they're pushing for as far as their as far as casting a wide net. I think there's going to be a guy. I think they're going to be a guy. They're so emphatic about getting an offensive lineman. We've already covered the guy that they were likely to get that didn't happen, but I think that would have put them in a perfect situation. But I think they will. I do feel gut feeling wise, without knowing intel. This isn't based on intel. I do think they're going to get an offensive lineman, another one.
Is Destin Hill a real person?
Yeah, he is, and I get I get emails like even when I was in Hawaii. I didn't even go to Warchant when I was in Hawaii, but
Good.
my email pops up to my phone every time, and there's at least 10 emails about Destin Hill like every week. And yes, he is a real person. I've met him in person.
You've seen him.
Yes, I've met him several times when he visited FSU. And the one thing I will say with people is like, look, I'm skeptical that this dude ever shows up because I'm going to believe it when I see it. Because I mean, you're 2 years removed. But I will say this: to get people kind of positive. FSU fully expects him, and also FSU is going out there when they go, like when they have the open time where they evaluate kids, they're going to see him. So the fact that they're going to see him consistently is a positive sign for me that they're still active with this, and they absolutely expect him. That's the word I got, that they're still absolutely expecting him. Now I'm skeptical as hell on that feeling until I see it, but that's kind of, I want to give people at least something positive in regards to Destin Hill there.
So Garrett asked if the mystery player was Marvin Jones Jr., and I love his optimism. It's one of the great ones. So we know it's probably not Marvin Jones Jr.
No, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not going to give you any hints, guys, because I'm not going to burn my guys. But if this guy does pop in there, and if this guy ends up staying where he's at, I will obviously acknowledge it and mention it. But I'm not going to. There's no nicknames. Not going to give you a conference. He was very highly regarded out of high school. That's all I'll say. But certainly a guy that I think would help them immensely. I do like what I saw out of Tatum Bethune when I went to practice. I like what I saw out of Kalen Deloach, but I think you get a third guy. I think that really solidifies that linebacker core, which I think is going to be very much improved based on what I saw early in the spring. But we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I agree with Jeff that you definitely would like to have another guy that would really solidify that group.
Yeah, and another receiver. You think they're definitely going to bring in another receiver?
They're going to try to. I'm not going to say they definitely will get one, but I definitely think they're actively looking around to see what guys are out there. Certainly, I don't think FSU's NIL is going to throw $3 million down for Jordan Atkinson like USC seems to be doing. But I think they're actively pursuing one because we don't know what Winston Wright's situation is or how long he's going to be out or if he's coming back or whatever. So I think they have to be, they have to, certainly look and see what's out there. But I do think they'll pursue one and hopefully one will, fit what they want. I have been impressed with what I saw from Micah Pittman in the spring when I watched him. I was like, they ain't have a guy like that last year.
Right.
They haven't got a guy like that last year. So I was very encouraged by what I saw at Pittman. And then I think the key for me when I watched this football team at receiver, I really would like to see a step up from Malik McClain. I really want to see a step up of consistency with Johnny Wilson, who I think gives them something they don't have. Johnny has got really high catch radius, and that's something they don't have with a lot of the guys they have on their roster. So if those two guys can step up, and Micah is what we think he is, I think it's a good situation at receiver, but I think you could definitely use another experienced guy to come in.
Yeah, Mike is the real deal. Aslan, I think we saw a couple questions, I believe. I don't want to step out of line here about the FAMU kid entering the transfer portal. Is that right?
Isaiah Land, yes. The Buck Buchanan winner for the FCS Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, I do know they're monitoring him. I do know they're, the NIL is, spoke a little bit with him. Some of the words I get is like he might be still staying at FAMU, and then some of it's like he's listening. So I think that's one I'm monitoring. I can't say for sure that FSU's like there's a strong possibility or a solid possibility or even whatever reason where it's leaning, but that is definitely one that they're at least there's communication.
I'm almost more surprised. I know there's still a few hours left in this day, Jeff and Mike, but the fact that it is May 1st and we haven't seen anybody else from Florida State jump into the portal, that almost makes me surprised more than anything. And Ed asks, do we have the numbers or at least how many transfers can they still bring in? I mean, they haven't lost anybody since I think Quayshawn Fuller entering the portal here last week. Do they have the wiggle they need to bring in the amount of guys you think they want?
I was told that they have the room to bring it in. That was what I was told. And I had somebody, I'm not going to say who, but somebody we checked with that told us like, we feel like they have room to add, more between 2 to 3 to 4, something like that. So that I was told that they do have the room to do that and make that happen. And the guys that, while I was on vacation and left with Quayshawn Fuller and Jadarius McKin, all those guys jumping in, I think you'll see a few more of those guys. I don't think it's, they're done with guys leaving. So I think there's going to be a few more. Obviously we're counting down to the final hours, but I think there'll be a few more. And I think certainly they kind of expected that when you have these exit interviews and, you're figuring out who is staying, who isn't. So I think what he's doing is he's fattened up the roster of guys that, he's addressing everything of the needs of what, if you're producing and if it's beneficial to the kid. And certainly it's not just beneficial to helping FSU getting guys in there and getting guys out that just aren't producing, but also you're helping the kid get to a place where he can play. Obviously you have certain guys that just aren't FSU material and hasn't worked out here.
Jeff, I mean, there's no teeth in this deadline, I don't think. Do you think there's like real true teeth? And like if a guy is not putting his name in the portal by the end of today, they're supposedly not going to be allowed to be eligible to play this upcoming season as a one-time transfer. I've just got a sneaking suspicion some guy's going to enter his name in somehow in June and show up, somewhere and be able to play football this upcoming season.
Yeah, I agree with you, Aslan. I don't think it's going to be monitored that much. Like I said, you don't have, your presence out, so you don't have anybody monitoring the stuff. And two, this is a new era of NIL stuff, so they're going to be a little bit lenient towards guys a little bit later, or if they need to go somewhere. I mean, you're going to tell a guy that he can't be eligible to play just because of a few months here and there. I don't think it's going to happen. I think they're going to be lenient. They're going to let it happen.
Good God. So there really are just no rules, whatever the hell you want to do. I mean, this is arbitrary. We float a date out there, but in truth, fellas, just honestly, day before the first game, screw it. You want to transfer? Go ahead, baby.
Well, apparently Miami just cuts checks. So, they don't even care. I mean, yeah, it's just, I think it'll be beneficial towards teams with the NIL of teams that do it kind of the right way. I think with FSU, they value relationships, but also this is what your value is. This is what we're giving you. Not FSU, but the NIL. And then, but I think FSU is big on relationships. I think with Miami, with that situation, saw that with Isaiah Wong, where he's demanding an ultimatum like, hey, pay me or I'm leaving. That is what they need to get away from, because that is a disaster. And it's just, I'm not a big fan of this crap, Jeff. I mean, I'll be honest. I do not like the NIL. I just don't think I think it's going to trend towards a direction of free agency, where guys just cut checks. No relationship, no ties. It's like Miami's adding all these guys for basketball. They have no ties to Miami. You have to have somebody that's invested to your program. They're talking about college. They're treating this like pros. And I just think it's a disaster. Eventually, somebody's going to do something stupid that really just turns this thing haywire.
Well, I've mentioned before that there's already a pro league, and they do it better. And those contracts are binding. And you know where a guy's going, and he's going to stay there once you sign him, and you know where he's going to be. You don't have to re-recruit him. It's interesting. I do think we're in the midst of the wild, wild west, as they all say, and we're watching a lot of things happen now that won't happen a year from now, 2 years from now. But I have zero faith that the NCAA is going to be the one to come in and put down a steadfast group of rules that everybody adheres to, because it's already been shown that A, they're going to lose in the courts, and B, universities have just told the NCAA to do that over and over and over again, and they have no teeth. And the NCAA's president just said peace. So I do think that in the midst of all this, we're going to watch a lot of strange things happen, and I think that there will be schools who take advantage of that. And maybe long term, it's best that the schools who try to adhere to certain guidelines and rules and do the right thing will benefit. But in the interim, I do think schools like Miami will take advantage of it, not just because I hate Miami and screw them eternally, but because I think obviously you got a guy who's a renegade who wants to win, and he's paying to do it, and it may absolutely benefit them in the interim. I mean, if you go out and get 4 or 5 guys that can really play, at the end of the day, we could all want to live by a code, but if that bitch runs a 4-2, he runs a 4-2.
Yeah, and then thing is, I mean, this guy, I mean, you look at Miami, and the guy's not just signing checks, he's announcing commitments. I mean, he's doing my job too. I mean, so he's telling you where they're going. And the thing is with the NIL, when it first started, it's not used the way it was intended to use. Like, the reason it was brought up was, you see dudes wearing your jersey, they're making money off the school's keeping the money.
Right.
It was to give kids back their likeness of what you deserve. Now it's like free agency, where they've taken this step further, where you're paying guys like you doing this and you doing that. So I just think it's trending towards a direction that is going to be it's gonna hurt.
Well, it's what Saban said. It's unsustainable. So we'll see if they get a czar, if they break away, whatever it might be. Boys, this has been awesome. I gotta go.
Warchant.com is the ultimate inside source for FSU football and recruiting. And now you can get in on the action for free for an entire month. Warchant.com is offering a risk-free 30-day trial subscription. Get full access to the #1 website covering the Seminoles just by entering the promo code WARCHANT30. That's WARCHANT30. Sign up and get in on the world's most active FSU message boards. Receive breaking news, stories from our award-winning staff, plus get exclusive interviews and videos. Just enter the promo code WARCHANT30. Warchant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source.